three amazing people. All of you guys are going to be very well. Who's Mr. Professor? Mr. Julian. All right, welcome guys. How you doing? Three amazing people. All of you guys are going to be very well. All right, well, we are live. Welcome, Kalina. How you doing? Are you here for Kaizen? No, you're here for Performance Seminar, right? Miss Kalina?
Yeah.
You're here for Performance Seminar, right?
I'm here for the performance. I forgot to change my name.
Great. All right, great, welcome. All right, well, I don't need to explain Performance Seminar to most of you guys because you guys have all done Performance Seminar, I'm pretty sure, before, right? We're just missing one person. We're missing Mr. Rishon, but I'm sure he'll be here soon. Oh, speaking of the devil himself, there he is. All right, we are 100%. Guys, we're gonna get started. So the way that Performance Seminar works with me, if you've never done Performance Seminar, is that we have the class run. Everyone performs once. Then after everybody performs, we go through each and every one of your pieces as a group, and we learn from each of your pieces. So you don't just play and leave, you play, we get about a sentence of feedback, then we come back to you and we all learn from your piece. So be ready by your piano even after you play, because you're gonna be sight reading some of your other peers' pieces. All right, welcome Rishon. Let's get started. So first up today is gonna be Miss Kalina. So Kalina, if you wanna go ahead and introduce yourself and what you're playing.
What do you mean?
Kalina, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? So hi, I'm Kalina, and today I'll be
Hi, my name is Kalina, and I'm gonna be performing. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's called Allemande, which means German dance.
It's called Allemande by John.
For Kalina, very nice. And actually, I was incorrect. I said this was everyone's, second or third performance seminar on, but this is actually Kalina.
This is my first one.
Yeah, I just saw that note from Dr. Fong, from your professor. That's great. So congratulations on your first performance seminar. You did really well. We hear this piece here often, and you did a really consistent job with the pulse, which is hard to do. So good job on your rhythm sets. I would say that the one thing we want to be careful about are some of these longer notes, right? So when you go to those slower rhythm sets, you know what I'm talking about? You just want to be aware of those slower ones because it's hard to kind of time them. Here's another one here at the end. You do really well in these groups, these half notes here, but these ones earlier we can go through. We'll probably do a little bit of hand separate practice when we get back to you later on, but we're going to move on now to the next performer, and we'll come back and we'll all learn from their piece a little bit later on. So next up is going to be, I'm going to pass it over to Sarthak. So let's replace the spotlight, and Sarthak, whenever you're ready, you can introduce your name and your piece.
Hi, my name is Sarthak and I am going to perform the Erie Canal.
All right, big round of applause for Mrs. Sarthak. Very, very good. And everyone's clapping for you. Look at that round of applause. Oh, we got some clapping emojis. Very nice. I've been working with you on this in Kaizen a few times, so I really have seen you progress extremely fast with this piece. A great job. What I really like is that you incorporated the swing of the eighths, which is so hard to do on this piece. So I know it's like one of your first pieces with the swing. I think you've only had a few, right, with the swing. So keep it up, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to make that swing even better and like ways to make it even more exciting, especially when we have some of these larger swings like at the end, or when you have some of these ones that are syncopated or offbeat earlier on. We'll talk about that. But for now, as always, we're going to keep moving forward. I'm going to pass it over to the next person. Let's see, the next person up is going to be Rishan. So I'll pass over the spotlight to Rishan, and whenever you're ready, Rishan, you can perform and announce yourself.
My name is Rashawn, and I'm going to be playing Melody by Robert Schumann.
All right, Rishan, very nice. And as you guys can see, this is a very different piece. The notes are much smaller, and we'll talk a little bit about the things that Rishan had to go through in this piece. And one of the things I want to just bring up for you, Rishan, is you did a really good job with keeping that left hand steady. The transitions are the area that you want to make it even better. So we'll talk a little bit about transitions. But as you guys can see, Rishan's got a little bit of a challenge on this piece. So we'll try to work through this together as a team later on. Specifically on the transition points. But great job overall for the performance today. All right, let's move on. So next up is going to be Mr. Neil. So I'm going to pass it over to Neil. Let's go ahead and make him. You can introduce yourself and your piece. That'd be great.
Hi, my name is Neil and I'm going to be playing Minuet.
applause for the day so far. We're going to go through all the pieces now, but great job, Neil. I've never heard anybody play like that, so it was very interesting to listen to. You kind of took what Sartok did in his piece with the swinging of the rhythm, and I've never heard somebody swing the rhythm on this piece by Mozart's dad. It's written by Leopold Mozart. But we'll talk about it, and it's kind of interesting to me, the rhythm that you had on some of these, the eighth notes that you had. It was very fun. It sounded very fun, and I like that you also brought out the dynamics. Okay, so let's go back, guys and gals. Let's go back to Kalina. So we're going to start with Kalina today. And the first goal that I wanted to bring up for Kalina, and everyone should try Kalina's piece. If you probably, some of you already know this, because I know I've even seen some of you perform this piece, are some of the cadences, which are the last part of each line, where you have the repeat sign. This is what we call a cadence. Okay. Now, when you have a cadence in music, so Rishan had a cadence, Sartok had a cadence, Kalina has a cadence. We all have cadences, right? Neil had cadences. We want to make sure we know about those cadences, because cadences are like the punctuation of music. What does that mean? What's like a punctuation? What is that?
Cadence.
What's that?
An end.
An end of a sentence.
Let's name some punctuation in English.
Exclamation mark, period.
We got like one of them.
Question mark.
That. Yeah, exactly. Question mark.
Period.
And also just the thing I'm using now to separate these things is a comma, right? So why do we even have those things? Why do we have it? Like, why do we need to have a period? Why do we need to have...
To know when the sentence ends.
Right. Okay, so why would we need a cadence at the end of a musical phrase?
To show where the end of the phrase is.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to play something for you guys real quick, and this is probably a very famous example that all of you have heard before at some point. This is a sonata by Mozart, and if you listen, there's an authentic cadence. The name doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is you want to think of this as like, this is sort of like a period. Sounds like it's done, right? But what if I were to do this? Is that a period?
No.
That's called, yeah, exactly. That's called a half cadence. So it's sort of like a comma. It could be a question, but in this case, it's actually more like a comma. It's like halfway through a sentence. So there, the second example I gave you was like a comma. The first example I gave you was like a period. This is a little bit more like a question. Have a listen to this one. This is called a deceptive cadence. It's like, oh, wow. What? I didn't expect that. So that's like a question mark.
Like a psych cadence.
Yeah. And then an exclamation point. I wouldn't say we have an exclamation point per se in music, but we do have something which is not exactly like
an exclamation mark.
Yeah, sure. Super loud, right? We do have something that's like a semicolon, which maybe some of you guys don't know. That's called a plagal cadence. That would be like this. And that doesn't really sound like it's done, but it could be. So it's like not really a complete sentence, but it could be. So we don't really have that version of the punctuation.
Like, hello.
Okay, so now that you guys know about the punctuation in music, called cadences, what kind of cadence is this? I'm going to play it. This is the end of Kalina's first half. Have a listen. Sorry. Yeah, so one more time. What's going on there? Is that the end?
No.
It sounds kind of like it's a halfway point, and it is. So this is almost like a comma. So this is like when we're doing that, right? Kind of a comma. But now, what happens at the end when you guys heard her play at the end? She did this part. Let's see if I can start from here. This part. Did that sound more final? Yeah, it sounded final, right? So that's more like a period. Or if you want to play it loud, then sure, an exclamation point. I want all of you guys, including Kalina, to play those two cadential points, right? But that one right there, and the one at the bottom, try it out, and I want you to start to hear it as what it is. And in the music terms that we have, this is called a half cadence, and this is called an authentic cadence. Okay, so have a listen to this first one again. Try it on your own. The second one is this one. Try it on your own. See if you can sight read that Rishon. See if you can sight read that Sartak. Give it a shot. Just try that part right there. And Colleen, of course, you can try it too, right? You can try these parts, and we're listening for these cadences. So now, this is the last question about cadences regarding Kalina's piece, and we're going to move on. We're going to come back to cadences in a second. When you're speaking or reading a sentence, and you come to a period, do you take more time after the period, or do you go right straight into the next sentence?
It takes some time.
Right, so guess what? In music, we do the exact same thing. You take a little bit of time after a half cadence, you take a little bit of time after an authentic cadence. So I'm going to show you the half cadence, for example, from here. We're doing this part, the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I didn't rush, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So I take my time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So whenever you have a cadence in your music, and all of you have cadences in your music, thank you for writing that down, Kalina. You're so diligent. I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on, guys. We're going to move on to another piece. The next piece up is Sartak's piece. And we're going to talk a little bit about the swing, but I also want to kind of point out some of his cadences, and that's really where the swing was most effective. Because he can kind of swing into the cadence, which makes it almost like an exclamation point, like Neil was talking about. Do we have that in music? Let's take a look at this part here. So right here, he has an accent, which means to play louder. It's a very low octave, right? This part here, and it happens on a cadence. So it's not only is it an authentic cadence, but it's loud. So this could be perceived, I think we're starting to realize this, like what Neil was saying, is that this could be like an exclamation point of music, right? It's an authentic cadence, and it's pretty rare, where the last note is louder. Can we try that one time, Sartak? And if you guys want to try it on your end, you can too, just this part though. Yeah, and let's include that low E, right? The low E. Yeah, very nice. So you can see how this works out, right? So music is a language, and what we're doing here is we're just building these sentences. Who knows what in English we call it a sentence? In music, what do we call it?
A sentence is a sentence, and a phrase is a sentence.
Yeah, so we call it a phrase in music. So a phrase is a musical sentence. Right? And again, I just want to keep reiterating what I said before. What's a cadence? It's musical punctuation. Right? It's how we know where the phrases end, or if they're halfway through. Great. And Sartak, same thing again. You can also do that same kind of extreme push on the swing here as well. This part though. There, right there. So you can really swing the pulse a lot. Yeah, so not necessarily faster, it's just that the notes are spread wider. And that you kind of like copied that version, and that's fine. That's perfectly okay, as long as you understand you can have more of a swing on those areas. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on, moving forward. And then Rishon had a lot of cadences in his music, right? He had so many cadences because his piece is quite long. Rishon, you're early stage 2, right?
Yeah.
We have that green symbol for all of us, so we know what stage you are. And when you're working through your piece, one thing I noticed is that you can take a lot more time on the cadences. So just like I talked about with Kalina, when you come to this part here on the cadence where you're playing this last part, you can take a lot more time before the part after the repeat. This part though. Right, you don't need to rush into that next section. Just like if you were to say a sentence, you finish a sentence, you take a small breath, and then you start the next sentence. Can you show us that transition point?
Okay.
So just those two measures.
Just like
Yeah, just that small intersection, right? This is what we were talking about for you today, transitions, and how the cadence will allow you to actually have an easier time of playing those transitions.
Okay. So
And then, yeah, and then the very next part, you can take more time, right? That. Instead of it, you don't need to rush straight into the next part. And that same strategy, Rishon, you can use that everywhere. So another spot you can use it is when you had the cadence over here. I wanted to highlight this other one for you, right there. Right, so this part though, that's a cadence, right? And then that's the next section there. So you can also take a little bit of time on this part. So da, 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 you can kind of like delay a little bit right in this area. And this is what makes music beautiful, is that it's not just like a robot playing, but it's a human, you, thinking about how to make small adjustments in the pulse. And in this case, at the cadence. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the very last person here. Is everyone getting this cadence punctuation talk today? You get it? We'll do this again if you come by for another performance seminar. This comes up often. And then Neil had a lot of cadences, of course, because he's playing a piece by Mozart's dad, and this is all about cadences, right? Even the first part feels cadential. Could be the end of the piece. It'll be a little kind of short, but it'll be the end. All of those are not what we would call an authentic cadence, right? So we have, but do you remember the other weird one that I gave you that was like a semicolon? Remember this thing? Like it had like a period and it was kind of the end. That's this. So this is called a plagal cadence. Kind of sounds like it's the end, but you know what really sounds like the end? Is this. And so my suggestion, Neil, is to not take too much time on this first part, but on the second part, take a lot of time. You can take a lot more time there, because that's like an actual ending, right? That sounds like an authentic cadence. Can we try that, Neil? Give that a shot. Take a little bit more time here. Dee-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. Exactly. Now, the opening, I noticed that you have one other thing you want to improve, which is these half notes. They're a slower rhythm set, right? You got to make sure that these get held out a little bit longer. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And if you guys can also try that, Rishon, Kalina, and Sartak on your end, this will be the last thing, I promise, and we're pretty much there. You guys did awesome today. Just let's try this one part for Neil's piece. He's just trying to get these half notes to be extended out for a little bit longer on this lower rhythm set. Can you try it out, Neil? Can you play that opening?
From the first part?
We'll do this blue set here. Yeah.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 1. Nice. I like how final the ending sounded. That's much better. And this was the one that you got 100% right. You got this one. You took enough time on this one. These other ones are still a little bit quick, but it's not a problem. You can work on this type of slower rhythm set when you work on your very next piece. Try to start to target this slower rhythm set to make sure that you know when there's 2 beats that you hold it up for the full amount and to not break the pulse there. All right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, all of you guys did super good today. My name is Mr. Julian. I'm happy to help you guys. If you ever come on Friday, I'm always here at 4:30. Thank you so much. Take care.